I'm going through a lot of stuff. I'm down here in Argentina, finally sorting out the material aspects of my divorce. 3 years that I've been putting this off, and I finally decided I can't keep putting it off because until we split everything, there was a sort of a verbal agreement, but verbal is verbal, and then when the push comes to shove and you have to actually start separating the things, we got kind of a quickie divorce, and we were sort of friendly with each other. We decided we would just work out the details later, and just, I don't know. Anyway, so now here's the moment, and it's still kind of going as we planned. We did agree verbally, and we're both sort of sticking to what we said, but there's a little push and shove here that some of us want more than what we had originally agreed to, and vice versa. I mean, I'm not saying I'm an angel, but in divorce, probably it's the same with every divorce. One person feels they're giving more of their fair share, and the other person feels the same way. So each person feels that the other person is getting the better end of the deal. And so an uncontested divorce it doesn't mean that you haven't been arguing. It basically means that by the time you go in front of the judge, you've come to the agreement and decided we're not going to get lawyers involved, which is what we both still would prefer. But a little piece of you just has a little bit of anger in there sometimes, but I still want to get this done as quickly as possible, so I've decided to, just accept, the other person is not being fair, and that's just part of divorce. You're never going to be completely happy with the outcome. When the love is sort of, I'm not saying it's completely gone, but I definitely don't feel like protecting him anymore like I did when I was married. The first thought before any decision I ever made was, how is it going to affect my husband? And apparently he had a different view. He didn't realize marriage was supposed to be a team effort. Here I am starting to bring up old stuff, and that's what happened. We got into a really bad argument the other day. I decided to just stay away from him and just let's only see each other when we got to deal with stuff, about the separation, and it's like I'm getting divorced all over again, really. The emotional part it's kind of done with, but since we're actually now doing the financial part, the old emotional, the pain and all that sort of comes back. So I just have to stick it through. It could take a long time. I don't necessarily have to be here the whole time. And again, I insist this is an uncontested division of our material things, but there's still going to be obstacles and emotions involved and all that. So today I'm not doing anything. So I thought I would just knit a little bit and do a knitting video, which I'm going to upload on my other channel. And maybe I'll just do 1 or 2 rows here. So that's what I've been up to. That's why I haven't been doing videos lately. I've been down here since April. Sometime in April I came down here. It's already June. I had a lot of other stuff to sort out. My cousin's coming. I'll turn this up in a minute. I'll tell you something weird that happened to me. When I first left my husband back in June of 2011, I got back to the U.S. I hung out for a few months, and then I signed up for on Match.com, and I met, a man. He was an older man, like late 50s. I mean, older than me. And I was searching through the profiles, and I saw this man who was sitting with a little dog. And so whenever there's a profile picture where they're with an animal, I always click. And I think That's why the men do it. They know that there's some women will click when they see a little dog or a cat or an animal. So definitely it worked. I saw his picture with a little dog, and so I clicked. And I thought, okay, seems like a nice guy, whatever, read his profile. So I wrote to him, and he wrote back, and I suggested we meet for breakfast. So we met that Sunday for breakfast at an IHOP. And okay, so he came in, he looked like his picture, came into the restaurant, we sat down, but the weird thing is, right away, like from the moment we started talking, he started telling me his life story about all these problems he'd had in life, and how he'd gotten into drugs, and I was like, well, maybe it's a little TMI for the first date, and it is breakfast. It's not like a time of day where you usually, all right, it was a Sunday, but it just was a little unexpected that he would be so open with me so soon. I didn't even know him. But you know how some people find it easier to be open with strangers than they do with actually family members and stuff. You know how he'd fallen into a depression, but he was fine now, and so he basically told me a lot about himself, and that now he was ready. He'd gotten divorced many years ago. He had a daughter that he was not in touch with because they never kept in contact, and all kind of stuff. So what was I gonna say? Anyway, so I thought he was, he seemed nice, but I didn't think I liked him because he was a bit older than, even though I knew his age when I wrote to him, but, up close, I thought he was a little bit older, and which was maybe too old for me. And, yeah, he had shared all that information, which I felt a little not really into knowing that early on, but I thought he was nice. So he called again to go out again later that in the week. And I thought, all right, why not? He's nice, he's a kind of nice guy. He talks a little too much about his life, but that's good. And maybe that's better than these guys who don't tell you anything about themselves. Maybe it was good that he was so open. So we went out again. And, first he came to pick me up. He got out of the car. I said, oh, my parents. I think I mentioned something about my parents. Because I am living with my parents still 3 years later. 3 years and a few months later. And I said something about my parents. Oh, I think I said, I'm just going to go in and let my parents know that I'm leaving. Because I was waiting out in front so he wouldn't miss the house. And he said, oh, well, am I not going to meet them? So, early on, he was already, pushing for a serious relation. He was doing the stuff that you do when you're serious, which I complain about now that I can't find. But there he was right there, But I just didn't, I didn't feel the click, the connection. So, all right, so I introduced him to my parents. You'll come on back. They were in the backyard. So I said, just let them, meet you. Let them know who I'm going out with. So my parents didn't know that I had met him on Match, though. That's the only thing. I had told my parents that he was a guy I met in the divorce support meeting, and that we were just going out. Actually, it's the opposite. In the divorce support meetings, they tell you do not date each other. They say it's the worst idea you can do. So you're here, come to the divorce support. It was free, I found it through Meetup.com. But the first thing they say when you get in there is we discourage you all from dating each other. You're all going through different parts of your mourning, your healing and it's not a good idea. So, but I lied to my parents, and I didn't want them to know I was on Match.com because they would have freaked out. So I told them that he was a gentleman that I'd met in divorce support, And we were meeting with a group of other divorcees, because we just thought it would be good to go out because we're all divorced. So they bought the story. And wait a second, I'll be right back. I gotta do something. Okay, so I introduced him to my parents, and my father shook his hand, but my father gave him like a look, my father gave him a kind of a strained. It's a look I'd never seen my father give someone before. I'd never introduced my parents to any boyfriends of mine because I never had dates or anything. So, but it was just, he didn't look at him like mean or anything, but it was just like I didn't quite know how to read the look my father gave the guy. But whatever, So I said, okay, well, see you later. We're going out to meet the group. I lied. It was just us two going out, but. Well, actually, we were going to a games night. That it was a place a group that I found on Meetup.com where you get together and play board games. So I thought it'd be good to go out in a group setting to get to know this person. It turned out the place was like half hour away where we were going. I didn't know the distances very well to where we were going. I thought it was the city. It was in another city, but I thought it was closer. But it took us a half hour or 40 minutes to get there. So, but anyway, so we had to go up the highway. And, oh my gosh, this guy the way he was driving, it was like I was scared. He was driving too fast. He was like texting on his phone, writing things, because, I'm going to call a friend of mine and find out where this place is. He knows the area, because I wasn't sure, we didn't have GPS. And so he was calling the friend with the one, or I think he was texting. Yeah, he had to text another friend. It was just, so I don't remember exactly what he was doing, but he was writing on so when you write, you have to look down to write, so you can't be watching the road. He was going too fast. He was kind of swerving as he was texting and writing, and I was like, oh, I hardly knew the guy, but I thought, jeepers, he's engaging in high risk behavior. I'm gonna have to let him know that I don't like this because, I don't want to die. So I said, could you, I'm sorry, but I just feel very nervous the way you're driving. I really would appreciate it if you would just keep your hands on the wheel and watch the road. And okay, he got defensive, and it was just oh my God. All right, so got defensive. Oh, I do this all the time. I told you I was a traveling salesman all my life. I've done this a zillion times. I've done this route, and this is that attitude that nothing's ever going to happen to me. I can do this. And so I was just like, oh my God. So I was really scared. So I said, well, listen, I need you. I'm a little weird, okay? I just need you to drive more carefully because I won't be enjoyable if I'm nervous, or something, because I really was scared. And, he started to drive a little bit better than before. It was still kind of dangerous, but it was not as bad as, at least he wasn't texting anymore and stuff. But I could tell he didn't like it. And I'm glad that he actually did what I asked him to do, because that's, All right, so we get to the place, and we decided to have dinner first, and then we were going to go to the place where we play the board games, which was next door. So we went to a nice Mexican place, and so everything was kind of, I thought, we had calmed down, we'd found the place, and we got a little lost. I guess I got a little bit nervous about it, because we were lost, we didn't have GPS. And, but for the most part, we finally got there. So we sit down, and he started really letting me have it. Like, I don't like women who try to control me, and you seem like the type of woman who's trying to control me, and I don't think that. And I mean, mind you, we're like 40 minutes from my house. I had no way of getting home. I said, the only thing I can do is tell him that he's right and I'm sorry. Otherwise, I'm going to get left and I'm going to have to, you know. I mean, sure, I guess I could have taken a cab and spent a few $100s, but. Uh, so I was just like, I don't think it's going to work with this guy, you know. And so, you know, whatever. He accepted my apology. You know, I really wasn't sorry. I thought I was right, but yeah, under the circumstances, I had, you know, he had the upper hand. So I said, yeah, I'm really, you know, I understand. I'm a little bit, you know, I took the blame that, yes, I know I'm kind of a nervous person and I'm sorry. That's why I'm divorced. You know, I just, everything that made me, and I didn't believe a word I was saying, but I just wanted to calm him down. He was just a little bit aggressive, you know. I just didn't feel comfortable. Even the first time I went out with him, I didn't, but I tend to give people more chances maybe than I should or whatever. And anyway, long story short, you know, the night ended okay. We played the games, everything. He dropped me off back at my house. I got home safely. And, you know, he plays the, he did gentlemanly things, but, you know, overall, I just couldn't, you know, it was just kind of, I was uncomfortable with the thing. So I basically, he seemed to kind of think I was nice, and he was looking for a serious relationship. I mean, this is the only guy I've ever met on Match or any of these sites that actually wanted a serious relationship. He said, you know, I've been alone too long. I'm really on here to find someone to settle down and spend the rest of my life with. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of what I want too. I'm not sure it's going to work with you and I said, I think you're a nice man, but, you know, I probably need someone who can really deal with my, you know, again, just so that he wouldn't get upset. I took the, you know, I didn't necessarily believe what I was saying, but I wanted it to end, you know, cordially. So I said, you know, I probably will need someone who's very, very patient, who can deal with my weird, you know, requests and of not driving a certain way. And, you know, so just to, and, you know, he sort of agreed with me. So, you know, but we kind of ended nicely. It was like, okay, well, you know, it was nice to meet you, and hey, you know, we could still hang out sometimes, he said, you know, and, you know, I liked him enough to think that, you know, we could maybe go out as friends occasionally if he wanted to, while he's looking for the right one. I just was going to make sure we met, you know, went in different cars and all that. But so, all right, so that was, you know, whatever, it was over. And then, so about 2 or 3 weeks later, he calls me. Oh, and he told me about other women that he had met on Match that were candidates that he thought were nice, could be potential candidates. So he'd been dating on Match for a while and doing his search. And so about 3 weeks later, he called. I think we exchanged emails, maybe he wrote to me, but he basically let me know that he would be moving out of town, that he'd met a woman on the West Coast, because he traveled a lot. So he would go to the west coast of Florida, excuse me, not the West Coast, California, the West Coast of Florida, which is very close. It's like 2 or 3 hours over there. You know, Florida's a skinny state. So, and, you know, I'm so happy, and I, you know, still would like to stay in contact with you, and it'd be great if you met her. I mean, he was really, like, wanting to make friends. I think he was trying to surround himself with people to make himself happy, and, you know, he had told me about his bouts with depression and all this. So, you know, I was happy for him. I said, that's great. You know, I'm so happy for you. And he said, I'm having a garage sale to get rid of all my, you know, I'm selling a lot of stuff because I'm selling my house and I'm moving over there. He had bought a house over there. I mean, which he'd bought for an investment for himself. He didn't buy it just for the woman. But, but I did mention to him, I said, I don't know, maybe, I mean, that's good. I'm happy for you. Just, you know, maybe be careful. I mean, you probably only just met this woman. Maybe you should take it, you know, I just meant it as a friendly warning that maybe it was a little too quick, and he said, well, I've been around, I can read people. And so that was that. And that was like in 2000, maybe early 2012 is probably when I met him. I don't remember when I was unmatched the first time, but so anyway, at the end of, and we lost touch. I mean, we kept each other's emails, but we basically lost touch after that. I knew he'd moved over there and whatever. So the end of 2013, it was December, or maybe it was already after the holiday. Yeah, it was January. It was after the holidays. I got a phone call on my cell phone. He had my cell phone number. And she says, oh, hello. My name is, I think her name was Maria. I knew she was a Spanish lady, a Latina. I'm just calling all of his friends because I want to inform them that he committed suicide just after, I think it was before Christmas or after Christmas, but it was around the holidays he committed suicide. That she had gone to work, she got home. It was the woman that he had moved in with that, was going to spend the rest of his life with, which he actually did after all. I guess she thought I was a friend, or maybe she knew who I was because he might have mentioned, and my number was in his cell phone. So I'm just informing, and then we're going to be having a funeral. He's going to be cremated. She told me the whole thing. So, it was a guy I hardly knew. I'd met a few times. We'd spoken on the phone a little bit, but I was just so shocked. It was so weird, And I ended up going to the funeral, and I met the lady. And then we went out after that. Like she kind of was like trying to develop a friendship with me. But she was weird. She was kind of a weird lady too. She had some quirks about her. So I just kind of like lost touch. I told her I was traveling to Argentina and I would be gone for a while, and maybe we could see each other when I didn't want to be mean to her, but it was just the whole thing was just so weird. So then I went to his grave afterward. I went back home recently. I went to his grave, and just, I don't know why, I just felt bad, and I went to the funeral and I cried. There weren't that many people there. His daughter went, the daughter that apparently he'd lost contact with. I guess they had actually made contact shortly before he passed, he killed himself. So they had actually started to only recently start to redevelop the connection, and because he hadn't seen her since she was a little girl. And it's just, the whole thing was just so sad. He just had the one daughter. The mother of the daughter had died, but he had divorced the mother of his daughter, but then the mother died, and then I think he married again, and that lady killed herself in an accident because she was an alcoholic. And I mean, the man's life was completely full of tragedy. Just, I don't know, some people draw tragedy to them maybe, or maybe the decisions they make in life. And apparently both his parents had a lot of very, addiction issues, and so he was raised by two addicted parents, addicted to who knows exactly what, but just everything about him was so sad after all. So, anyway, I just thought I would share that story with you because it was just a weird thing that happened to me. Okay, good night. I'm running out of batteries, so I guess that's enough for today. Good night.